Well, it was on this day 41 years ago that the anti-apartheid activist Bantu Stephen Biko was killed in police detention. Biko was at the forefront of black consciousness movement during the late 1960s and 70s, fighting for the liberation of black people in the country. He was only 30 years old at the time of his death. His party, Azapo, still promotes his teachings and his philosophy. And in studio with us, we're so happy to be joined by the national president of Azapo, Thokoane. Good to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in.
Good morning, and to the viewers of Morning Life.
It's so important that, today, 41 years ago to the day, is the passing and the death of Steve Biko, and yet you still look at his teachings and they are still so very much a part of the psyche of many South Africans. That is a legacy, and that is a true legacy
by which we should live.
Yeah.
Maybe I should start by paying condolences and respect to the families of the 3 firefighters. And just to say how cheap do people die when they're supposed to be saving the others, then they find themselves being the ones that actually have to die.
Yeah.
But it takes me to the quote of Steve Biko when he says, "One day will bestow to this country a human face." Still waiting for that day, because that speaks to what was happening then. And we can then ask the question, when you look at his legacy, whether that has actually come. And it's 25 years later, and it hasn't happened. And it's a dream that we must all live by. Because when you say human face, it means first self-love. It means we're not going to molest, we're not going to rape, we're not going to eat each other. We're not going to do the things that we're talking. We're not going to find ourselves with our hands in the cookie jar. And the person next door will not go hungry. And of course, everything else, we're going to share in the land that God has put us here. And those are some of the things that he addressed himself to. In fact, Steve, with his intelligence, with his brains and far-reaching, he looked at quite a number of things that a lot of people had not even thought about.
Yeah, and that brings me to a point that I wanted to raise, and you can carry on speaking. Is a couple of people have been saying that he was a thinker beyond his times.
Yes, of course.
This brain of his was many, many, many years ahead of where he lived.
Now, I happen to have been such a young person at the time. And everybody wanted to go to university to become a doctor.
Yeah.
Because becoming a doctor means the hunger is gone. But he saw beyond that. He even sacrificed his education. But you know what is more important in terms of sacrifice? His life. Because he had an opportunity to say, I can't go beyond this. It's painful. We're only in together here, so let me give you what you want and you leave me alone. But he lived true to his teachings, and he said, for the liberation of this country and black people, I am prepared to put down my life. And he did that.
Yeah.
He didn't just say a statement, but he did lay his life so that we can be free. Now, a lot of people, especially young people, and in the country, they will know that Steve died, Steve was tortured. But it's something else to know what is it that he was tortured for the dignity of black people. So that this country can have a good life for everybody who comes into the country. But then who is in charge is black people, and education, health, everything else. You know, he had an opportunity to steal the money that he used to get for the projects. Zanempilo and BSSP, Black Student Study Project that came later, to say, let us teach each other, let us create wherever we are conditions that we can enjoy, because those who are oppressing us, we're not interested in that. But we're also hoping that come the day when we're free, when we're in charge, we don't have to be doing small projects. The government of the day, of the people, will be the one who will actually oversee and overlook for everything that black people have not been given in the past, has been aspiring for. Lo and behold, things are not like that. And he must be turning in his grave for seeing things to be the way they are.
That was the first thing you said to me as you sat down here. And that made me very, very sad to hear something like that, because I often wonder, do we keep his legacy alive enough? Do we revere what he stood for enough? Have we learned from his teachings, or have we gone very wrong on this path?
I think we have gone very wrong. I think for us in the Black Consciousness Movement and Azapo, we took things for granted, that as soon as the black government takes over, they will get space and resources to continue with the teachings, but they were undermined. And unfortunately, the country did that at its own peril. When you ignore the legacy, the things that Steve Biko stood for, we end up in the mess that we find ourselves. And we are saying to young people, let's rethink, let's go back to the teachings. Fortunately, they are able to look at those things, but they need a Vanguard movement to steer them in the right direction. You know what is unforgivable? What is unforgivable is those who have lived with Steve Biko, those who have been side by side with Steve Biko, and have veered off the mark to do the kind of things they are doing. Remember, when you talk corruption, when we talk abuse, when you talk, a lot of the other people who are found, it's the people who actually know the teachings of Steve Biko.
Yeah.
So we're not going to give up. It's something that year in, year out, we must celebrate. From here, we're going to the cell. When I leave from here, I'm going to Pretoria, to Kgosi Mampuru. We're going to draw strength from him. We're going to talk to him. We're going to talk to his spirit. And we're going to say, Steve, look at our country. Is this what you died for? Can you give us some more strength so that we can be able to push and push and push in the face of difficulties and adversity?
My question to you is, and if we can get through it quite quickly, last year there were calls for an inquest into Steve Biko's death, very much so along the lines of what happened with Ahmed Timo. The family found closure. There was closure to that story. This is an individual that we need to know the reasons. We need to know the details, and the details still evade us 41 years later. What's the development? Is it going to happen or not?
Well, we can only ask for it to happen. Maybe those who are in charge can listen, can hear us.
Yeah.
You know, when we approached the Department of Justice to say the assets of the Black Consciousness Movement that ran into millions that were taken when the Black Consciousness organizations were banned in 1977, we got a letter from that department. The response was that you should have gone to the TRC because that was the opportunity. But the TRC is just a conduit, it's just a small thing that has actually played its role. But Steve is bigger than that. Yeah. And fortunately, we continue to work with the family of Steve Biko, Sisintsigi, Kosinati, Samora, and the other members of the family. We still band together. And we continue to say, let us go and knock every time. We never give up.
Good.
Let us continue to knock and say, can we have an inquest? Can we have something, justice for Steve Biko? And of course, there are others after Steve Biko died who also followed. Even the younger people at 76 who followed in there. And they are forgotten. Mm-hmm. And we are saying we will never be forgiven by our ancestors, by our gods, by everybody for just forsaking the things that other people died for in this fashion.
Strike, we thank you for coming in. Thank you for being the voice of a fallen hero, Steve Biko. We do hope that that inquest does go ahead. I think a lot of South Africans would like to see something like that being announced and the truth being revealed so that the family can, finally get that closure.
The country, the family can.
And the country, indeed. Yes. National President of Azapo, Strike Thokoane, thanks again. And I know that you've got your journey today to go over and celebrate his life as well as remember him. So let's go to a break and we'll see you after this. Do stay tuned to Morning Live.